Supreme Commander Zactil stood before the holographic display, his forearms crossed in an attempt to project an intimidating presence. The war room aboard the flagship of the Galactic Dominion, Inevitable Victory, buzzed with activity as his top generals gathered around the strategy table. The most recent intelligence reports danced across the shimmering screens, showing the last human stronghold, a feeble defense that, despite all logic, remained intact. "My esteemed warriors of the Dominion," Zactil began, his vocal sacs inflating as he spoke with practiced authority. "For 3 stellar cycles, we have brought down every human base in their solar system. Mars was claimed in a mere day. The moon colonies surrendered in under a week. Yet this final fortress, this insignificant blot of resistance in North America, refuses to yield." General Vex, her chitinous armor catching the light, stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, with all due respect, might I suggest we deploy the planet Cracker?" A single strike would. Zactil's secondary arms slammed onto the table, sending ripples through the holograms. "We are not animals, Vex. We are conquerors with a code. The humans must see their defeat, feel their place in the greater empire." He waved his upper right hand dismissively. "Besides, the World Council requires this planet's resources intact." The generals nodded in agreement. Their neural enhancers synchronized their tactical data. The Dominion's latest weapons, gravity disruptors, phase shift cannons, and neural scramblers, represented the pinnacle of military ingenuity, designed specifically to counter human resistance methods that had been honed through years of conflict. "Now, let us consider the plan," Zactil said, manipulating the holographic map with swift gestures. "The humans are expecting a direct orbital assault, as we have executed in previous strikes. Instead, we will deploy our forces at these 3 locations." 3 points of light blinked on the map. "Our Wraith-class stealth ships will position the ground units beneath their primitive radar systems. When the moment comes, we strike from every direction at once." General Kryleth, the youngest among them, raised an objection. "The humans have displayed remarkable resilience in past battles. Should we?" Zactil let out a harsh laugh, akin to metal scraping against metal. "They are nothing more than primitive creatures who stumbled upon some luck with their crude weapons and makeshift strategies. We possess technology beyond their comprehension. This time, we have accounted for every contingency, every reaction. Victory is not just inevitable, it's mathematically assured." The other generals exchanged glances, their admiration for the commander's confidence evident. None mentioned the odd reports from previous encounters, the humans' baffling ability to laugh in the face of overwhelming force, their tendency to become more dangerous when cornered, or their inexplicable adaptability. "Prepare your forces," Zactil commanded. "In exactly 6 hours, we will launch the final assault that will end this nuisance once and for all. The human mind is simple. They won't even know what hit them." Little did he know they were terribly mistaken. The attack unfolded just as the Supreme Commander had planned. The stealth ships effortlessly bypassed the human defense systems, moving undetected like subatomic particles slipping through a poorly constructed net. 300,000 of our finest warriors, equipped with the most advanced combat systems in the galaxy, surrounded the human fortress. The night was alive with the faint hum of our cloaking fields. "All units in position," General Vexner transmitted through the neural link. "Awaiting your command." Supreme Commander Zactil raised all 4 arms in a triumphant gesture. "Commence the attack." The first wave hit with surgical precision. Gravity disruptors warped the fabric of space itself around the human defenses, while phase shift cannons reduced solid walls to clouds of disintegrating atoms. Our forces surged through the breaches like a relentless tide of destruction. But then, everything began to unravel. The humans were ready. No, it wasn't just that they were ready. They had known exactly where to wait. The first clue came when squad leader Tixval's unit encountered a lone human soldier standing in the middle of a collapsed corridor. The human was dressed in standard combat armor, but with one peculiar detail, a crude smiley face painted on the helmet. "Identify yourself," Tixval demanded through his translator. The human raised both hands in a gesture of surrender. "Name's Finn O'Reilly, and you're right on time." Before Tixval could reply, his neural enhancer detected enormous energy signatures flooding the fortress, though not from weapons. Whatever it was, our sensors hadn't classified it as a threat. "Supreme Commander," General Kryleth's voice broke through the static. "The humans, they've done something to the gravity fields. Our disruptors are..." The transmission cut out abruptly. Hundreds of gravity disruptors malfunctioned, their polarities reversed. The precise fields we had calibrated to destabilize the human defenses became chaotic vortexes, twisting the fabric of space. Squadrons of our troops were flung in all directions, unable to correct for the violent distortions. "Impossible!" Zactil Till roared from the command center. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They can't possibly manipulate our systems, but somehow they had. The humans had not only understood our technology, they had anticipated it and turned it against us. Amid the chaos, our communications were lost and battle plans disintegrated. We watched in disbelief as this human, O'Reilly, moved with eerie calm through the wreckage. Our phase shift beams curved around him. Neural scramblers failed to affect him. He walked through our destruction like it was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Pull back and regroup, General Vexner barked, trying to regain control. Reform defensive positions. Our forces tried to comply, but the humans had transformed the battlefield into a trap. Every hallway, every room, every seemingly unimportant corner had been prepared, no with advanced technology, but with rudimentary mechanical devices that nullified our most sophisticated systems. Status report, Till demanded, his voice tinged with panic as tactical displays showed more units disappearing from the battlefield. Supreme Commander, one of the few remaining observers, reported, the human, O'Reilly, he's approaching the front lines. He's talking to our troops. Talking, Till hissed. What could he possibly have to say? The response came, filled with confusion. He's explaining how they did it, how they studied our attack patterns, our technology. He says they wanted us to strike exactly as we did, that everything we thought was in our favor was part of their plan. On the tactical display, we watched as O'Reilly reached the heart of what should have been our strongest position. He stood surrounded by our most elite warriors, now ensnared by their own malfunctioning technology. You know what's funny? O'Reilly's voice cut through the air, somehow bypassing our communications encryption. You really thought we were the primitive ones? All that advanced tech, all those fancy systems, and none of you ever considered that the best technology isn't always the newest. He removed his helmet, revealing a face that carried an expression our xenobiologists had identified as the precursor to their most dangerous behaviors. O'Reilly was about to laugh. That's when we understood. This wasn't just another battle. This was something beyond our calculations, something our superior technology and battle algorithms had never prepared us for. This was a human enjoying themselves. It began as a faint rumble, nearly undetectable to our audio sensors. Oil stood frozen, his face twisting into what our combat manuals identified as a smile. But this wasn't the same. This was primal, something so raw it triggered warning signals in our neural enhancers, signals we didn't even know we had. You want to know what we did? O'Reilly asked, his voice carrying an unsettling undertone that sent pulses through our secondary nervous systems. We studied you, every engagement, every battle. And you know what we discovered? The human paused. In that moment, Supreme Commander Till's voice broke through our neural links. Shut him down. Activate the neural scramblers. 3 of our warriors triggered their scramblers simultaneously. The devices hummed to life, calibrating to target the brainwaves that should have incapacitated any organic being. O'Reilly's grin only widened. See, that's exactly it, he said, tapping his helmet. You guys love your gadgets so much, you never stop to consider that maybe we figured out how they work. And once you understand how something works, then it happened. His laugh exploded like a sonic weapon. Several of our warriors recoiled, their neural enhancers overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught of stress hormones. Through the command channel, we heard General Vexner shouting for a data search through our archives. Sir, she called to Till. I found something, a report from the Mars campaign. It's marked as low priority, but a human prisoner mentioned psychological warfare, how their species uses laughter as a weapon. O'Reilly's laughter intensified, echoing through the walls of what we now realized was not a fortress, but a trap engineered specifically for us. You want to hear the real kicker? O'Reilly asked, his laugh tapering into a chuckle, the kind our xenobiologists would later classify as unnerving. We knew you were coming, not just today, since the moment you entered our solar system. We knew you'd end up right here, right now, because you guys are predictable. All that tech, all those neural enhancements, and you still think in straight lines. Then, more intelligence reports began flooding our tactical displays, incidents from every major engagement, moments we had overlooked or dismissed, humans laughing while they laid ambushes, laughing as they made impossible escapes, laughing as they turned our own weapons against us. Psychological weapon detected, our defense systems finally acknowledged, but by then it was far too late to matter. Unknown delivery mechanism, countermeasures unavailable. The human soldiers emerged from their positions, each one now wearing the same chilling expression as O'Reilly. They moved with the confidence of predators who had expertly lured their prey exactly where they wanted them. Stop! Supreme Commander Till barked through every available channel. Remember your training. Remember your neural conditioning. But our training hadn't prepared us for this. Our neural conditioning, designed to suppress suppress fear and enhance aggression, was now working against us. Without the ability to process fear properly, our troops couldn't understand what was happening. Their bodies screamed at them to flee, while their enhanced minds urged them to stand and fight. O'Reilly started walking toward our command position, his soldiers fanning out behind him in a formation our tactical systems couldn't classify as either offensive or defensive. It was something entirely different, a pattern not designed to defeat us, but to break us. You know what the best part is? O'Reilly called out, his voice dripping with that unsettling amusement. We're not even using our best stuff yet. This is just us having a bit of fun, teaching you a lesson about assumptions, about thinking you know what a species is capable of just because you can scan their tech level. The laughter spread through the human ranks like a contagion. Each new voice added to the psychological bombardment, and our neural networks, meant to share tactical data and coordinate movements, only amplified the growing panic. Every warrior's terror fed into the network, creating a feedback loop that no amount of technological superiority could disrupt. We had come expecting primitive beings relying on crude weapons and desperate tactics. Instead, we had walked into a trap laid by a species that had turned their very emotions into weapons, more effective than any technology we possessed. And as O'Reilly's laughter echoed through our command frequencies, we finally understood the warning we had ignored in all those intelligence reports. Never assume you understand humans, because the moment you think you do, the moment you believe you have them figured out, that's when they show you just how wrong you are. The command center of inevitable victory descended into chaos as tactical displays showed our forces splintering in patterns that defied every military algorithm we had ever developed. Supreme Commander Zactil watched in horror as elite units, veterans of 100 successful conquests, scattered like startled prey animals. Maintain formation, he screamed through the neural network. We are the Galactic Dominion. We do not retreat from primitive beings who rely on sound waves as weapons. But his words fell on minds too overwhelmed to process them. Our neural enhancers, designed to synchronize our movements and boost our fighting efficiency, had become a liability. Every soldier's panic fed into the network, sparking a storm of terror that swept through our ranks like a plasma wave. O'Reilly walked through the chaos, leading his soldiers in what our systems insisted on labeling as a casual advance. Not a charge, not an assault, but something far more terrifying. Humans who knew they had already won, simply going through the motions of collecting their victory. Sir, General Vexner's voice came through, distorted by static. The 3rd Division, they're dropping their weapons. The neural scramblers, the gravity disruptors, our troops are abandoning everything. Through the surveillance feeds, we watched as our most advanced weaponry clattered to the ground. The humans didn't even bother to pick them up. They simply kicked them aside, treating our pinnacle of military technology like discarded toys. Launch the orbital strikes, Zactil barked, his forearms frantic as he worked the command controls. Authorization code, yeah, about those ships of yours. O'Reilly's voice cut through our encrypted channels as though they didn't exist. Turns out, when you spend months studying someone's attack patterns, you start to notice things like how your orbital weapons need a really specific set of conditions to fire, conditions that, say, a bunch of antiquated weather satellites might be able to mess with. The tactical display shifted to show our orbital fleet hanging motionless in space, their weapon systems endlessly cycling through diagnostic loops as Earth's supposed primitive satellites blasted them with precisely calculated interference patterns. Impossible, General Kryleth shouted. Our systems are designed to block advanced electronic warfare? O'Reilly finished for him. Sure, but did you ever stop to think that maybe, just maybe, something simpler might work better? Those satellites up there, they're running programs that would make your tech experts laugh. If, you folks actually knew how to laugh. A new sound filled our command frequencies, hundreds of human voices, all joining in what our xenolinguists would later categorize as giggles. Reroute power to secondary systems, Zactil ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. Activate the emergency protocols. Execute contingency plan. Sir, Vexner interrupted, her voice hollow. We have no secondary systems, no emergency protocols, no contingency plans. Everything was tied into the neural network. The network that's now, she couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. We could all see it. Our entire command structure, the most sophisticated military hierarchy ever created, was crumbling. Not from human weapons or tactics, but from the psychological impact of realizing how completely we had been outplayed. O'Reilly reached our former forward command post, now abandoned except for the still active holographic display, showing the collapse of our forces. He picked up one of our neural enhancers, turning it over in his hands like a curious child inspecting a strange but ultimately useless trinket. You know what your biggest mistake was? He asked, his voice carrying that same terrible undertone of amusement. You thought technology equals advancement. You saw our old satellites, our projectile weapons, our so-called primitive defenses forces, and you assumed that meant we were simple, that we couldn't possibly understand your fancy toys. With a flick of his wrist, the human tossed the neural enhancer aside. Behind him, his troops moved with calm precision, herding our panicked warriors into containment areas they had prepared long before we arrived. But here's the thing about humans, O'Reilly continued. We don't need neural networks to coordinate. We don't need advanced tactical systems to innovate. We just need— He paused, and that terrible smile stretched across his face again. A really good joke. And you folks, he added with a grin, you've been the punchline since day one. In the command center of inevitable victory, Supreme Commander Zactil stood in disbelief as his once mighty army crumbled, not under the weight of superior weapons or overwhelming force, but because a species we had long considered primitive had understood us far more deeply than we had understood ourselves. Orders, sir, a voice asked, but Zactil couldn't tell who it was. The command structure had broken down so thoroughly that the voices seemed to blend into one indistinguishable chorus in the chaos. This is Supreme Commander Zactil of the Galactic Dominion. He transmitted across all frequencies, his voice faltering and lacking the authority it once held. To all forces, I am ordering an immediate— He couldn't finish the sentence. For decades of military service, countless victories, and an unbroken streak of conquests, he couldn't bring himself to say the word. O'Reilly's voice broke the silence, cutting through the command frequency like a blade. The word you're looking for is surrender, Commander. Don't worry, we've got a whole orientation program ready for you folks. First lesson, learning to laugh at yourself. Trust me, it makes everything easier, and as the last remnants of our military power fell apart in the face of human psychological warfare, as our technological superiority proved useless against the simple weapon of laughter, we finally grasped the true meaning of fear, not fear of death or defeat, but fear of something far worse, becoming the punchline that other species would share around their campfires for generations to come. The debriefing chamber aboard the human command vessel Thunderchild was painfully bright. Supreme Commander Zactil, now stripped of both his neural enhancers and his dignity, sat across from O'Reilly and the human command staff. The terms of surrender had been signed, but one question burned inside him. Why? Zactil asked, his vocal sacs deflated, his voice hollow. Why did you laugh? What could possibly have been amusing about that moment? O'Reilly leaned back in his chair, that familiar, unsettling smile spreading across his face. Because at that exact moment, I saw your tactical display. I saw all your fancy predictions, your combat algorithms, your strategic projections, and you know what they all missed? The simplest thing in the universe. O'Reilly reached into his bag and pulled out a battered paper notebook, actual pressed tree pulp, not even a data tablet, and slid it across the table. Inside were crude diagrams, sketches of our technology, and notes written in several human languages. 6 months ago, one of your neural enhancers malfunctioned during a skirmish. O'Reilly continued. It fell right off a soldier's head, completely intact. Our tech team took it apart, not to copy it, but to understand how it worked, how it interfaced with your troops. And you know what they found? Zactil picked up the notebook with trembling hands. As his eyes fell on the crude drawings, his heart sank. He suddenly realized what he was looking at. Your entire military, O'Reilly went on, every single piece of your so-called advanced technology operates on the assumption that fear and logic are enemies. Your neural enhancers suppress basic survival instincts to create perfect soldiers. But here's the thing, humans. We learned long ago that fear isn't the enemy of reason. It's a partner. Director Patel, the human commander whose name tag read Patel, stepped forward. Your forces were designed to be fearless, Commander, he said, his voice calm but edged with a certain understanding. But without fear, without the ability to recognize when you're outmatched, you lost the ability to adapt. Every enhancement you made to your troops just made them more predictable. But the laughter, Zactil protested. How could such a simple sound cause so much damage? O'Reilly shrugged. Because you designed your neural network to amplify positive emotions during combat. Aggression, confidence, determination. But you never thought about what would happen if it encountered an emotional response it couldn't classify. Human laughter in battle didn't fit any of your behavior models. It wasn't fear, rage, or despair. It was joy. The realization hit Zactil like a gravity wave. Their own technology, their own arrogance, had been turned against them. The neural network, designed to manage emotions, had tried to process an emotional response it had no reference for and short-circuited itself in the process. Your entire strategy, Director Patel explained, was based on the assumption that a technologically superior force would always triumph over a primitive one. You never considered that we might understand our own primitiveness better than you you understood your advancement. Those satellites, Zach Till remembered. They weren't weapons at all, were they? Weather satellites, O'Reilly confirmed. Broadcasting on frequencies so old, so simple, that your sophisticated jamming systems didn't even recognize them as signals. Like trying to hack a rock. Can't be done. O'Reilly reached across the table and picked up one of the surrendered neural enhancers. You know what the real joke was? He said. We could have copied this technology months ago. Could have upgraded our whole military to match yours. But why bother? Why spend all that effort becoming a poor copy of you when we could just be a better version of ourselves? Around them, human soldiers went about their duties, many still wearing those unnerving smiles. But now, Zach Till noticed something else. They were smiling at each other, sharing jokes, using humor not as a weapon, but as a way to strengthen their bonds. The withdrawal will begin immediately, Director Patel stated. Your forces will be allowed to return to their ships under supervision. But before you go, we want to make something very clear. O'Reilly stood up, his expression serious for the first time. We're not interested in conquest, Commander. We just want you to understand that humanity isn't something you can quantify with tech scans and combat algorithms. We're messy, we're unpredictable, and yes, sometimes we laugh at the worst possible moments. That's not our weakness, it's our strength. As Zach Till prepared to leave, to face the shame of being the first Supreme Commander in Dominion history to order a full retreat, O'Reilly called out one last time. Hey, Commander, next time you feel like invading someone, try checking if they're smiling first. Might save you some trouble. The sound of human laughter followed Zach Till all the way back to his ship. But this time, he finally understood. They had not been defeated by superior strategy or cunning tactics. They had been defeated by joy, the one weapon their advanced civilization had forgotten how to use. 10 solar cycles have passed since the event now known throughout the Galactic Dominion as the Laughing Battle. I, former Supreme Commander Zach Till, now serve as Chief Instructor at the Dominion War College, teaching a mandatory course titled Understanding Human Nature Beyond Technology. Today, I stand before a new class of military cadets, their neural enhancers noticeably absent. The holographic display behind me flickers to life, showing footage from that fateful day, honing in on the moment when O'Reilly removed his helmet and, in doing so, forever altered the course of our civilization. The Galactic Council has since officially designated Earth as a protected anomaly, not because of its military strength or technological prowess, but because the humans possess something far more precious: perspective. I turn to address my students, my vocal sacs resonating with hard-earned wisdom as I begin. This is the new First Contact Protocol, I announce, pulling up a simplified set of directives. Gone are the detailed technological assessment matrices and the predictive combat models. In their place is a single, straightforward directive: listen first, analyze later. For 10,000 years, I continue, my voice steady and reflective. We advanced our technology. We created neural networks capable of coordinating millions of soldiers, weapons that could reshape planets, ships that could outrun light itself. Yet, in all our progress, we never asked one fundamental question: what good is advancement if you lose the ability to adapt? The display shifts to reveal the current state of Dominion-human relations, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and, most surprisingly, the establishment of a new department of humor studies. True to their nature, the humans found this endlessly amusing. The humans taught us something our civilization had long forgotten. I explained to my students, watching as they struggle with concepts that their enhanced minds would have rejected only a few cycles ago. They taught us that true strength doesn't come from suppressing our primitive instincts, but from understanding them. Their laughter, which we once saw as a weakness, was actually the embodiment of their greatest power, the ability to find joy in the face of overwhelming odds. Just then, a notification flashes across my display, right on schedule. Today's guest lecturer has arrived. The door slides open, and in walks Finn O'Reilly, now wearing the rank of ambassador. Several cadets instinctively flinch, their bodies recalling the genetic memories of that fateful laughter. At ease, folks, O'Reilly says, his trademark smile never wavering. I'm just here to help your instructor demonstrate an important lesson about human unpredictability. Together, we explain how the Dominion has completely overhauled its approach to expansion. Gone are the days of rapid conquest and technological subjugation. Now, our first question when encountering a new species is no longer about their weapons or defenses, but about their stories, their jokes, and their ability to surprise us. You know what the real punchline is? O'Reilly asks the class, looking around with a glint in his eye. We humans knew we could never match your technology, but we didn't need to. We just needed you to realize that all your advancement, all your neural enhancements, meant nothing if you couldn't understand why someone might laugh in the face of defeat. The footage from that day replays again. The moment when human laughter shattered the most advanced military force force in known space. But now, 10 cycles later, I can finally appreciate the beauty of it, the sheer magnificence of a species using joy as a weapon. The laughing battle changed us, I tell my students, my voice a little softer now, not because we lost, but because it showed us what we had sacrificed in our relentless pursuit of perfection. We had become so focused on advancing our technology that we forgot to advance ourselves. I glance over at O'Reilly, who is standing by the door, ready to leave, but he pauses, looking back over his shoulder. "You know, Commander," he says with a mischievous gleam, "I never told you what made me laugh that day. Want to know?" The class leans forward, eager for the final secret behind the laughing battle. I nod, curiosity piqued. "I was thinking about how your invasion force brought enough firepower to reshape continents." O'Reilly says, his grin widening, "But not one of you thought to bring a sense of humor. And somehow, that made all your power, all your technology seem kind of funny." As O'Reilly's laughter echoes through the lecture hall, I notice something remarkable. Some of my students are laughing too, not because of neural stimulation or programmed responses, but from genuine amusement. And in that moment, I realized that while the laughing battle may have ended our dreams of military dominance, it gave us something far more valuable. It taught us how to be alive again. In the great archive of the Galactic Dominion, there now stands a special section dedicated to human psychology. At its entrance, inscribed in both our language and theirs, is a simple warning. Before measuring a species' advancement, first listen for their laughter. For in the sound of joy, you may find wisdom that no technology can match.